We begin today Daf Samach Daled Amud Aleph, the 9th Perek of Masechta Nedarim, Perek Rabbi Eliezer. So this Perek begins a new subject. We're going to speak about being mat neder. When you go to a chacham to request a heter for your neder, so you have to have a Pesach. You have to find some opening that if you would have been aware of the circumstances when you made the neder, then you wouldn't have made the neder. That's how you mat the neder. So this Mishnah will discuss what are those circumstances that you can use to be mat the neder. What's a qualified Pesach for a neder? So Mishnah Rabbi Eliezer says, you can open up for a person, a chacham can open up for a person a Pesach for a neder, b'kaved aviv imay, using kibbud aveim, the honor of his father and mother. What does this mean? So the Ran explains that you tell a person, if you would have known that that you're making these nedarim embarrasses your parents. People say, look at this person, he was born to these parents and he's making nedarim, which is not a positive thing to make nedarim. So this is an embarrassment for your parents. If you would have known that they're embarrassed, or the Ran adds even more so, people are going to say that, look, that he learned from his parents. This is the behavior that he learned from them. So Rabbi Eliezer says that's a good Pesach. If a person says he didn't realize that his parents are going to be embarrassed by his neder, then that's a heter for the neder. Chachamim say, no, you cannot use this as a Pesach for the neder. And we'll see in the Gemara why not. Amar Rab Tzadok, so now based on Rabbi Eliezer's opinion, Rab Tzadok says, if you're using a Pesach, what's an opening for this neder? The fact that it's an issue with the honor of his parents, so you might as well use a similar Pesach and just use the honor of the Eibishter. The Eibishter doesn't want a person to make a neder. So if you would know that by you making a neder, it's against the will of Hashem and it brings a zilzal to the kavod of the Eibishter in the world, would you make that neder? So you can use that as a Pesach. You don't even have to go to the father and mother. So on this, the Mishnah says, in Cain, if you're going to use this as a Pesach for a neder, the kavod of the Eibishter, so then ain't nedarim. There'll be no nedarim. And Gemara will explain what this means. There's a machlokes in Gemara how to understand this statement in the Mishnah. Why will there be no nedarim if you're using the kavod of the Eibishter as a Pesach for the neder? Okay, we'll see in the Gemara. Sagt the Mishnah, Umaydim Chachamim le Rabbi Eliezer. Chachamim will agree to Rabbi Eliezer, even though Chachamim said you can't use the honor of your parents as a Pesach for the neder, but they will agree when it comes b'davash beinay lebein aviv v'imay, if this is a neder, and the subject of the neder that we're speaking about here is that the person made a neder that his parents should not have any hana from him. So that was what the neder was about. So in such a case, shepaischen le b'kavod aviv v'imay, that you could use the honor of his parents as the Pesach for the neder. You tell him, listen, your parents can't have honor from you and it's embarrassing for your parents and it's not covered for your parents. If that's what the neder was about, it's about your parents not having honor from you, they agree that you can use that as a Pesach for your neder. Okay, so this is one subject. The machlokes said Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. Rabbi Eliezer is more lenient. What you can use as a Pesach for a neder, and the Chachamim are more stringent. Similar thing the Gemara brings, Vayidam Rabbi Eliezer, another leniency Rabbi Eliezer says regarding the Pesach for a neder. Paischin b'nailad. You could open up a neder, how? By using something which is nailad, a new development that happened after you made the neder. While you made the neder, this was not the situation, but now something new developed, and now you tell the person, the chacham tells the person, now that this new development happened, would you still make this neder? So you could use a new development. The Chachamim say, no, you cannot use a new development. There has to be something that when you made the neder, it was already the situation, you just weren't aware of it. And then you could use that as a Pesach if you were aware when you made the neder that this was the situation. But not b'nayla, not something that takes place later, after you made the neder. And the Mishnah gives an example. A few examples here. The person's neder, he says, Kainem she'eni nana leish pleini. I make a neder, I'm not going to have enough from this individual. What happens after he makes the neder? The v'nasa sefer. This person becomes a sefer. And now you need him to write you a pair of tefillin, or to write you a mezuzah, or whatever it is. Or this individual that you said you will not have any enough from him is going to marry off his son. And V'amar, now this person says he wants to use this as a Pesach for his neder. Ilu yisi yedei shu nasa seifer. If had I known that this person will be a seifer, or that he's marrying off his son very soon, lo yisi neder. I would never make this neder not to have any hanar from him. Or a similar situation, kainim lebayizeh shani nichnas. A person makes a neder, I will not enter into this home. Something got him upset, and he makes such a neder. And then v'nasa beis hakneses. This home turns into a shul, and now he wants to be able to go into shul to daven. So Amar, he says, ilu yisi yedei shu nasa beis hakneses. Had I known that this house would become a shul, yisi neder. I would never make a neder not to enter into this house. So these are examples of things that developed after he made his neder. Rabbi Eliezer mater. Rabbi Eliezer says this is allowed. You can use this as a Pesach for the neder. The Chachamim say that this is a new development, it's noilad, and it cannot be used as a Pesach for the neder. You have to find something that was there already when he made the neder, then it uproots the neder l'mafreya. The whole idea of a Pesach is that he would have never made the neder in the first place, because if he would have been aware that this is already the situation when he makes the neder. If it's noilad, that means that while he made the neder, he would make the neder. It's something that happened afterwards, so it doesn't uproot the neder l'mafreya. So therefore you can't use this as a heter for the neder. So the Gemara goes back now to the line that it said in the Mishnah, that if you're going to say that you can use the heter for a neder, or Pesach for the neder, that it's not the honor of the Eibishter, so the Mishnah said, Ein Nedarim. Sagt the Gemara, my Ein Nedarim. What does the Mishnah mean to say that if you use this as a Pesach, then there will be no Nedarim? So Abaye says, the pshat is, Imkein ein nedarim nitorin yofe. You're not going to have the ability to be mater a neder properly, in a proper way. Why not? So the Ran explains, the reason is because if a chacham comes and asks a person, if you would have known that the neder you're making is something that the Eibishter does not like, would you still make your neder? A normal person will not have the chutzpah to say, yeah, I would make the neder anyways. A person, or to answer honestly. To answer honestly whether he would or would not make the neder. You tell a person that the neder you made, the Eibishter doesn't want, so yeah, of course, what's the person going to say? Oh, if the Eibishter doesn't want, I would not make the neder. That's what you're telling the Chacham. But in your heart, not necessarily is that true. You're just embarrassed to tell the Chacham the emes. You don't have the chutzpah to tell the Chacham that I would make the neder even though I know that the Eibishter is not happy with this. So using the Eibishter as an opening to be mata your neder is not something that is going to be honest. So ein nedarim nitarin yafe. The het is not going to be a proper het. The person is going to say one thing, but in his heart, the truth might be something else. So you can't use this to be mata a neder.
His parents.
That's a bias pshat. Oh, very good. So apparently when it comes to the parents, we do rely on a person's honesty. Person is not embarrassed to say the truth that I would have made this neder, even though it could bring a zilzal to the honor of my parents. That's something that a person will be honest about. And that's taka the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim. When the Chachamim say you can't use your parents as a Pesach for the neder, it's taka for this point, for the same reason. Because the Chachamim say if you're bringing a person's parents into the picture, he's not going to be honest about this. He's going to be embarrassed to tell the Chacham that even though I know that my parents are embarrassed by this, I still would have made the neder. But Rabbi Eliezer says, when it comes to the Eibishter, that we know a person might not be honest about it. But when it comes to his parents, we trust that he's going to be honest about it. And therefore, that's not an issue to use that as a good heter for the neder. That's taka the hezber of the machlokes. The Gemara brings now another pshat v'Rava. Rava says, what does it mean when it says ein nedarim? That if you could use the Eibishter as a heter for a neder, there'll be no nedarim. In Kain, ein nedarim nish'alim l'chacham. What's going to happen is, people are not going to think that they have to go to a chacham to be mata the neder. Because people are going to say to themselves, every single neder, you can use the exact same Pesach. The Eibishter doesn't like any nedarim. So any neder you make, you can say to yourself, now that I know that the Eibishter doesn't like nedarim, so that's a heter for the neder. So therefore it's not, I don't even have to go to a chacham to be mata neder. So people are going to be very, very careless about this. So the Rana points out, so now what's the pshat? If so, maybe say the same thing when you get to the heter of using your parents to be mata neder. Can't you say the same idea? Every single neder you make, it embarrasses your parents, that here's a child that makes nedarim. So the Ran says it's actually not necessarily so. If a person makes a neder regarding a very, very severe matter regarding something which is, not to have hana from something that mamish is very changes his life, or something that's very severe matter, that's something that will be embarrassing to the parent. But if a person makes a neder about a light matter, not necessarily will his parents get embarrassed about this. But when it comes to making a neder, and we say that the Eibusher does not want to make a person a neder, that's all Nedarim. There's no difference. The Eibusher doesn't want a person to make any neder. So therefore, if you're saying that you're using the Eibusher as a heter for your neder, so then there's no limitation for this. And therefore a person will think he never has to go to a Rav, to a Chacham, to be mater his neder. Okay, Zok the Gemara Tanan, so let's see what it said in our Mishnah. Mishnah later said, the Moedim Chachamim l'Rabbi Eliezer, Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Eliezer. Even though Chachamim said you can't use your parents, that your parents are getting embarrassed by your neder, as a heter, as a pesach for your neder, but Chachamim agreed to Rabbi Eliezer, that if the neder itself is a matter that's between you and your parents, your whole neder was that your parents should not have a nor from you, so over here, you could use the honor of your parents that was affected by your neder as a pesach for this neder. Says the Gemara, Bish loimala Abaye. According to Abaye, it's understood why Chachamim agree in this case. The Amar Abaye said, "In Kain ein Nedarim nitarin." Abaye says that what's the issue? The machlokes between the Chachamim and Rabbi Eliezer, whether you can use your parents as a pesach for the neder, is could we trust a person to be honest about this or not? Everybody agrees using the Eibishter as a pesach for your neder, the person's not going to be embarrassed to be honest about this when he's talking to the chacham. What the machlokes was regarding the parents, if you're using your parents that are getting embarrassed by your neder, will a person be honest about this? And the chachamim said that using your parents, a person will not be honest. So if so, we could understand why in this case, when you made a neder that your parents should not have a nar from you, chachamim agree that the person will be honest. Why? Because in this case, if the person made a neder that his parents should not have a nar from him, so I see, even the yechatzeflei, since this person has the chutzpah in the first place to make such a neder that his parents should not have a nar from him, so we see that this person has chutzpah. He has chutzpah against his parents to make such a neder. So now when he comes to speak to the chacham about this, and the chacham is asking him a question, answer me honestly, would you make this neder if you would know how this affects your parents or not? He'll give an honest answer, because we see that the honor of his parents is not something which he's afraid to speak up about. So therefore over here, chacham mamayde that this could be a pesach for the neder. But what did Rava say? The imkain ein nedarim l'shalom l'chacham, that if you're going to allow a person to use the pesach of the Eibishter in a neder, so what's going to be? So for every single neder, you can use the Eibishter as a pesach. So if so, over here, this type of neder, if a person makes a neder that his parents can't have a no from him, so hacha over here in this case, amai paischin, why could you use his parents as a pesach for this type of a neder? When you make a neder that your parents shouldn't be able to have a no from you, every time you make such a kind of a neder, isn't it obvious that you can use your parents themselves as the pesach for the neder? The fact that your parents now are being bothered by this, that they can't have a nar from you, so that itself is an automatic pesach for the neder. So every time a person makes such a kind of a neder that my parents should not have a nar from me, he's going to say to himself, I don't have to go to a chacham to be matter this neder. The pesach is obvious. The fact that my parents are being affected by this, and therefore now I could say that I didn't want my parents to be affected to this extent. So you should apply here the same logic that Adarabah, the Chacham should say that you should not be allowed to use this as a Pesach for your neder. So Amri, they answered, no, it's a different thing. Kivin, the Chol Nidri, Loisagi Lohoin, the Lav Chacham. Since all kinds of Nedarim, when you make a neder, using your parents as an excuse for a Pesach for this neder, it will not work. So hachanami paischen. Over here in this case, you could use this as a pesach for the neder. Meaning, what the Gemara is saying is, if you're using the Eibishter as a pesach for your neder, so then all nedarim, without every single neder, you can just say, oh, the Eibishter is not happy with your neder, and therefore this is a pesach for your neder. So therefore, that's something that a person is going to become very careless about. He's going to say, oh, my neder in the first place is meaningless because the Eibishter, if I want it, it's a neder. If I don't want it, I could just say that the Eibishter is not happy with it, so it's ice neder. When you make a neder, and this is a neder that you're not bringing the Eibishter into this, you're making a neder that your parents shouldn't have a nor from you, so enochanami, this neder here now, the way you made it, you can use your parents as a heta, as a pesach for the neder, but It's not a kind of neder that you could say that you're using the parents, that is not the kind of a heter that's a heter for all nedarim. It's a heter for this neder. So the fact that the person knows that using his parents is not a heter for every single neder, so the fact that in this neder he's using his parents as a heter, he will go to a chacham to be matir it. He's not going to say that automatically my parents is always a heter for the neder. Okay, going now to the next subject that the Mishnah spoke about, using a Pesach for the neder, something which is neilad, something which developed after you made the neder. So you could use something which is neilad, something that's developed later as a Pesach for your neder. My time at Rabbi Eliezer. So what's the source of Rabbi Eliezer that you can use this as a Pesach? Amar Rav Chisda. So Rav Chisda says the Amakra, the pasuk says by Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu ran away from Mitzrayim, his life was threatened. And then he was in Midian, and there, when he was in Midian, so the pasuk says, the Ram brings here the pasuk, Vayoyel Moshe l'sheves aseish. That Moshe, he lived with Yisrael, and Vayoyel Moshe. Vayoyel Moshe means he swore. He swore that he's going to stay with him, he's not going to leave without asking permission from Yisrael. So then what happened? The pasuk says that the Eibishter tells Moshe Rabbeinu he should return to Mitzrayim. And what does the Eibishter tell him? Why should you return? Ki meisu kol ha'anoshim, because all the people that were trying to kill you died. Meisu, they died. And so who does this refer to? But Pashtus refers to Dasan and Aviram, that they died. So what does Rabbi Eliezer prove from here? V'hamise denailadu, the fact that they now died, this is something that developed after Moshe Rabbeinu swore that he's not going to leave Yisrael, and the Eibishter is saying that the fact that they died, that's now a Pesach for your neder, or your shvuah in this case. You only made the neder or the shvuah because you were afraid that people are going to kill you if you return to Mitzrayim. But now that you know that the new development happened, they died, so that's a Pesach for your neder. You can, from here, Rabbi Eliezer learned out, you can use a new development as a Pesach for your neder, or in this case, a Shavuot. So the Gemara explains and says, V'Rabbanan, my Tamai, what's the reason of the Rabbanan, why they say that you cannot use a new neilad, a new development as a Pesach for your neder? Kasavri, their opinion is, Hanu mi maisi. These individuals that wanted to kill Moshe Rabbeinu, Dasan and Aviram, did they actually pass away? Whenever you find in the Torah the expression of nitzim and nitzavim, einon ela Dasan v'Aviram. It's Dasan and Aviram, and it says later on in the Torah nitzim and nitzavim by Kairach, who were the main players in the whole argument with Kairach with Moshe Rabbeinu, Dasan and Aviram. So they were alive and well much later. So what did Rish Lakish say about what it says here? Meisu kol ha'anoshim sheyardu min nechseihem. What happened is they lost their money. They became poor. They were rich, influential people, and they had the ability to kill you. And now they became poor. And then when a person's poor, it's as if he passes away. That's what it means. So what's the pshat that the Gemara is saying here? That because they became poor, this is not considered to be neilad. The Ran explains, even though this was a new development that happened after Moshe Rabbeinu made the neder, but the klal of neilad is, it has to be something that is a new development which is not expected to happen. If it's a new development which commonly happens, it's shchiach, it commonly happens, and therefore it's as if it was already something that you should have been aware of before. A person to be rich and to lose his money is something that happens all the time. And therefore this is something that is not called neilad. So therefore, this the Pesach that the Eibishter uses for Moshe Rabbeinu is not neilad. The fact that he says that they passed away, in the middle of their life, all of a sudden they passed away, so that's something which is considered to be neilad, something that's unusual. So that's the machlokes over here, whether we have a source from here to this idea to be matar and neder for neilad.
Why by neilad does more ask my time by the Pesach?
Yeah.
Not by regular Torah.
By the whole musig of Torah. Okay, so the emphasis is this whole idea that you could use a Pesach to be Mata Neder. So there's a famous Gemara in Chagiga. We once learned, the Gemara says that the Chacham to be Mater or Neder with a Pesach is Hararim Natluyim B'Saira, because there's no clear Makir in the Torah for it. If you look in the Parshas Matis, the Halachas of Nedarim, over there it talks about a father being Mater the Neder of his daughter, or a husband being Mater the Neder of his wife, but it never says anything beferish about a Chacham being Mater the Neder. But because it starts with the lashon of matais, the Rashi matais, the ones that can be mated the neder, there's a remez in the psukim of the Torah to be mated neder, but there's no clear pasuk anywhere in the Torah about this whole inyan of a chacham being mated the neder with a Pesach. Because the Gemara brought up this inyan of because they lost their money, so therefore it says about the meisu that it's like they passed away. So the Gemara brings another statement of Rabbi Shua ben Levi about this kind of idea. So Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi said, Kol adam she'en lo banim. A person that has no children, God forbid. Choshev kemeis. It's like he passed away. Shenema, the pasuk says, Rachel tells Yaakov, Havali banim, daven for me, I shall have children. V'mayim meisanechi. If not, I'm not alive. V'tanya, we learned in the Braisa, Arba chashuvin kemeis. There are 4 individuals that it's considered as if they passed away. Ani, person that lost his money. Mitzaire, person that has a tzaras. V'suma, a person that's blind. Umi she'en le banim, and a person that has no children. Ani, the chsiv kimeisa kol anashim, like the pasuk we just quoted. When you get to das naviram, that it's like they passed away. Mitzaire, the chsiv al nati kameis. By Mitzaire, the pasuk says over there, by when Miriam became a mitzeras. So the pasuk there says that Aaron was davening for her that she should not be like someone that passed away. Suma, the chsiv, the pasuk says, when you didn't go into Golis, machshakim shivani, I'm sitting in a place which is dark and a person can't see, and the pasuk concludes, Kimeisei olam, like those that have died. Mishain libanim, person that has no children, the chsiv, hava libanim, give me children, v'mayin meisa noichi. So these are the 4 individuals. Out of all these 4, so the Rebbe points out in one place in a sikha and a letter, the summa is considered to be the worst of all of them. Why? Because the summa, so the Gemara says, according to one opinion, is not even chayiv in mitzvahs. The others that are considered to be kemeis are still chayiv in mitzvahs. But there is an opinion that summa is not chayiv in mitzvahs b'chlal. So he's in a lower level from all the other ones. Interesting. And another thing that Rebbe points out in the Geta Summa, a person writes to the Rebbe a letter that he asks the Rebbe Eitzah for watching his eyes and things that he sees. The Rebbe says to him that think about what it says here in the Gemara, Summa Chashuv Kemeis. A person that's blind, it's like he's not alive. The Rebbe says it doesn't only mean that a person that can't see, but even a person that has the power to see, and yet he uses his vision for not appropriate things. That's the same thing, Chashuv Kemeis. You're taking your kayach of vision and putting it into inappropriate things. You're killing away your kayach of vision, Chashuv Kemeis. That's the way the Rebbe applied this Gemara. Okay.